you so much. Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Leo Buscaglia is a professor of education at the University of Southern California. He teaches one of the most popular courses at that school, Love 101. The course is so popular it was the basis of a PBS series as well as several books, including Dr. Buscaglia's newest Living, Loving, and Learning Hold book. A fascinating and invigorating man. Please welcome Dr. Leo Buscaglia. Doctor, how are you? Pleasure to meet you. Have a seat, sir. I'm very interested in this. I have to admit I'm a little confused. Let's start off with some statistics from your book, okay?
All right.
On an average day in America, it says here, 9,077 babies are born, 1,282 are illegitimate and not wanted, 2,740 kids run away from home, about 1,986 couples are divorced, about 69 people commit suicide, someone is raped every 8 minutes, murder every 27 minutes, and robbed every 76 seconds. A burglar strikes every 10 seconds, and the average relationship in America today lasts only 3 months.
That's why such a book.
Okay. Is there anything to be done about this?
Oh, a lot to be done about it, really. But the responsibility is basically ours, David. And what I'm trying to talk about in this book is the fact that we don't have to have it this way, that only a small percentage of the population is running us around in circles. They're not all like this. Basically, they're like this. You know, the audience here.
Yeah, you're pushing your luck now, Doctor. Well, let me ask you about these statistics. I'm assuming that these are accurate.
Yeah, they're accurate. Basically, they've been checked out, and also they're in a book called On an Average Day in America, which anybody can check out.
Yeah. Now, is this relatively high for a country that has 240 million, 230 million residents? Are these numbers getting bigger, or?
It's high, and it's getting worse.
Yeah.
And therefore, my basic concern, you see, the reason I started teaching this class was that I realized that in a university course, in high school, whatever, there's no course called Who Am I 1A? What am I doing here?
Yeah.
We prepare people, we teach them reading, writing, arithmetic, we release them through the environment, and we say, you're on your own now. And people don't know how to deal with loneliness and despair. They don't know how to deal with pain, and there aren't any teachers for those things.
Okay, so now when you get them to USC, and they sign up for 101, Love 101, what does that mean?
Well, basically, that's the love title was because of wanting something that encompassed all of human emotions and all of human experience. And when we talk about love, we're really talking about life.
Okay.
And so the thing is I get them together. I don't purport to be the expert on love, but I've studied the phenomenon and done research on it for at least the last 16 years. So I know a little bit about what I mean by love and what people have been talking about in terms of love. And what we do is we sit there and share it. Not love the way you're looking at me now, but we share our knowledge of love. Everybody in this audience, and yourself and myself, have experienced love in a different way. And the beauty of it is that we all have had these experiences. They're unique with us, and the wonder is that we can share them and maybe grow together in terms of our understanding. Because love, my premise is that love is a learned phenomenon.
Mm-hmm. Now let me ask you, let's just hold it right there, because it seems to me the more you talk here, the more confused I get, but that happens frequently. May have nothing to do with you.
I hope not.
People don't know about love, they don't know about life when you get them in this class, or say I come to your class, what chances are, what am I lacking as a 19-year-old kid or whatever?
David, let me ask you a question. When is the last time that you've really sat down and tried to understand the phenomenon of love? Certainly you are a lover, and you're trying to live as a lover in our culture. When is the last time that you've sat down and asked yourself the question, what is this thing? You know, why is it that I'm not... I see what you mean about your audience, you know. But really, we study all kinds of things, but the phenomenon of love is just left on the shelf. And everyone believes that he or she is a lover. And
now, when you use the word lover, we get random snickers from this group of random snickerers. But do you mean actually the act of sexual intercourse?
No,
or just
I mean I mean love.
Right.
I mean the kind of love that that parents show their children, that that the two of us can relate on in terms of relating as human beings.
But is it the kind of thing that you have to sit down and say, now I'm going to deal with the topic of love? Can't you just, isn't it something that you, well, I've run out of words.
That's the trouble. Everybody believes that it is. You know, recently I was on an airplane and there was a man that was sitting next to me and he griped about everything. He griped about the airline. He griped about the food that was served. He called the stewardesses half-wits. He went, you know, on and on and on. And then he said, and then he said to me, when he knew I was going to be with him all the way to New York, he said, what do you do? And so I sort of chuckled. I said, I teach a class in love. And he said, wonderful, we need more lovers like you and me. You see, everyone thinks they're a lover. No one ever sits down and analyzes what they mean by that.
Yeah.
I'm a lover, so I scream at the waitress. I'm a lover, so I push people off the sidewalk.
That's not a lover.
Hardly.
Now, you also you like touching people, don't you?
You bet I do.
Yeah. Well, you're in the right town for that. We'll pause. We'll be back here to touch Dr. Leo Buscaglia. Thank you very much. Dr. Leo Buscaglia is here, and we were talking about teaching of love, and also I mentioned that you advocate touching. And how does that apply in this? Is that part of the class also?
Well, we're brought up in a culture where we're taught that we're supposed to extend our hand to people and
Right.
say, how do you do?
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, that's the distancing phenomenon. I was born in a very loving, warm Italian immigrant family, and everybody kissed everybody when they came in, when they went out, and I never had any existential problem as to whether I existed or not. If someone could kiss me and not go through me, I must exist, you know? And then I went out into the world, the real world, and the first letter I ever got from a teacher in the United States was written to my mother, if you can envision this, David. She was an Italian immigrant who could barely read English, and the teacher wrote, you must do something about Leo because he's too tactile. You know, my mother says, and what's this tactile? And I say, well, I don't know, Mama. She said, if you did something bad, I'd break your face. Now, that's love, you see.
Yeah.
And so then we looked it up, and it said to touch, to feel. And she said, well, what's wrong with that? You've got a sick teacher.
Yeah.
And it's the truth, and I've realized that ever since. I feel that when we know scientifically that when somebody touches you, fondles you, or holds you, you know, embraces you, your hemoglobin count goes up. And the hemoglobin is that magical stuff that carries the oxygen to the heart and the brain and the vital organs. And so you're a healthier person. You should basically hug at least 4 times a day.
But
You bet.
you mean just people that you work with, people?
Everybody, sure. I hug my secretary, I hug my students, I hug the head of Holt Reinhardt today. And if,
Who hasn't? I mean, that guy. But you know, I have to tell you, that notion strikes me as being uncomfortable. I don't want to hug most people.
don't you?
No, I don't. Now, does that mean there's something desperately wrong with me?
Absolutely not. It just means you don't want to hug somebody.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know, I get my hemoglobin up in other ways, I think, probably, but not hugging.
Would you like to tell us about that?
Well, I think if you hug the 1 or 2 people you want to hug, period, that ought to do the same thing, don't you think?
It does a lot, but you know, there are an awful lot of people out there that need a little hugging.
Yeah.
And you don't lose anything by doing it, and you both gain. So why are you reticent?
I don't know. I see a lot of fat people.
Well, as an Italian, that appeals to me.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't mean that. I know it's fine to be fat if you want to be fat. That's fine. I have nothing against fat people. I just don't, you know, it's poor packaging.
And David, you're hugging not a package. You're hugging a warm, tender, loving human being, and it hardly matters what the package is.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I think too often... I think too often we never go beyond the package, and therefore we miss some of the most beautiful people in the world.
that's true. And again, I'm just being silly about fat people. That's not... I would hug a fat person. Honestly, I would.
That's very nice of you.
Okay, now, intimacy. Intimacy. Now, again, does this mean sexual intimacy?
No. You see, the thing that amuses me is that almost 90% of the books that have love in the title are concerning sex. Just recently, I did a very large study on love, and I told people to write in a hierarchical order what keeps love alive and exciting. And you know, amazingly enough, when you look around on the bookstores, sex is way down on the list. You know what the top ones are? Things like communication, learning to talk to each other,
right.
Learning to relate to each other, intimacy in terms of seeing each other and writing little notes that you put in the refrigerator, and you say, I love you, you're a sweetie, guess who? You know, stick a little note in his underwear so when he sits down, crinkle, crinkle, you know? He pulls it out and it says, you're the best person I know. That's, you know.
You know, I pulled that once on the head of Holt Reinhardt. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm only being silly here. I guess it's difficult for me to... Well, are we going away? Are we coming back with the doctor? Yeah, we'll go away. Okay, we'll be right back. Thank you. We're nearly out of time. Short of taking your class, or I guess you would like folks to also read the book, but what piece of advice would you like to see put into daily use that would help this problem?
Well, if I had one thing to ask, I would ask everybody to sort of look at themselves and see how many times a day they actually perform a loving act. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds naive and simple, but don't go to bed at night without saying that somehow or other I've left things or people a little bit better for my having existed. That would make me extremely happy.
It sounds
Whether they read the book or not would make no difference.
But this is also just a form of basic consideration for other folks walking around on the planet, right?
Love is basic. Love is simple, David. We're the complicated ones.
I enjoyed talking with you. Dr. Leo Buscaglia, thank you very much for being here. The book is entitled Living, Loving, and Learning.